While Dr. G is uh, signing on. So, welcome everyone. Looks like you can hear me. That's fantastic. Hello, everyone. Good to see all of you here. And again, we've talked about the impact of the environment, and we'll talk about our perspectives at Chopra, being our extended body, and also learn a lot of the science that's out there on environmental medicine using Dr. G's expertise. He's a specialist working in and with information on cancer specifically. So let's see here. I think he's, and hopefully this will work. Hello from LA, Pennsylvania, Brazil. Welcome. Hello,
Hello,
Dr. Christian Gonzalez. Welcome.
I'm on Chopra.
Yeah, so good to have you. Thanks for joining us today. And we've got people joining us from all over the world. So I'm so glad to have this conversation with you and educate people and help people using healthy habits in their day-to-day life, which I know you're really passionate about sharing little tips that, will make our lives healthier so that we can prevent disease and, really thrive. So thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. This platform to touch so many people. Yeah, I'm excited
Absolutely.
I'm excited to give some information how we can better our lives. Cheap,
Yeah.
affordable, easy, just interventions that we can do, and that's important.
Absolutely. And I think that's a super important point, and something I'm really passionate about too with this Healthy Habits series is just really giving people things to start with, because I think people stress themselves out sometimes. They think it's very complicated to, make choices, especially, when it comes to, having sort of a non-toxic environment in our lives, but it's so important for our health. And we're going to talk about why that is and give people really easy things that they can start implementing. So before we start, though, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about your journey and, what got you to, being where you are today, sharing all this information with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I originally was going into dental school. I wanted to be a dentist. I actually wanted to be an orthodontist. I had a lot of issues with my teeth when I was young and confidence issues. So I knew that really I know how it affects a kid. So I actually went to dental school for about a year and a half. And what I found was that in that time, I sort of felt like the shoe fit, but it wasn't fitting. Do you know that
Yeah,
feeling,
absolutely.
feeling like it could be good. It kind of feels comfortable. I'll break it in at some point. My mom was diagnosed with cancer when I was in school, and immediately, I came home and I went to some of her visits, and I was just so disheartened by the way we approach cancer overall, especially in America, nutritionally, right? Telling her to eat calorically dense foods, but giving her these sugary processed drinks with inflammatory ingredients. And at the time, I knew enough about nutrition to look at the label and go, I don't feel good about it, you know? But going back to like, okay, calorically dense whole foods, right? Things that the body wants to heal, healing foods. That's what really drove me. And then I just ended up going to naturopathic school. My mom passed away my first year, but I went into oncology for that reason. And when I found
Wow.
in cancer, and I did my residency at an integrative cancer hospital, so I saw tons and tons of patients who were having chemo, radiation, surgery, and they were doing well, they were recovering, but not as good as I knew they could be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a whole other aspect that we weren't talking about as far as nutritionally or supplements, but lifestyle stuff too. That like, what are the habits, right? What are the habits that led
Yep.
cancer to grow in your body? And then why are you going home with the same habits? And that's sort of the empowering piece that I think that that I started seeing once I got out of my residency and in practice. I started going, what do you mean no one's talking about? Okay, let's talk about basic foundational stuff, right? Even the
Yep.
stuff in your home that no one's talking about, right? The stuff that we know is like a little bit of a drop in the bucket that's filling up over time.
Mm-hmm.
How do we address those things too? So all of a sudden cancer became not just nutritionally oriented, but whole body, mind, body, physical body, emotional body, every part of you that has to do with cancer because it's so complex. Then I started addressing, and then I just came into this educational role through
Mm-hmm.
platforms. I've been out of practice for years, but I've been putting all my energy into really just teaching people by the millions. That's the goal. Millions of people knowing how to live their life better with healthier habits.
That's amazing. Yeah. And, I think it is important, it's really wonderful when, you can teach one-on-one, but also because so many of these things are applicable to everyone, like eating, nutrient dense whole foods, like you said, and some of these things that everyone can do, it is really important to educate, the masses. So thank you for the work that you do. So let's dive in, and again, thank you for sharing your story, because I as well, my mom had cancer, many years, 30 years ago, that she survived, and then passed about 8 years ago from a totally different type of cancer. And I don't think there is anyone out there who hasn't been touched somewhere in their lives by cancer. So it's really such an important topic. And, again, you talk a lot, and in Ayurveda, which is the perspective we take at Chopra on all health related topics, but very much in alignment with, again, just natural living. There's two main concepts, and you touch on both of those, where first we have to remove the things that are getting in the way or creating disease, getting in the way of our natural healing, or creating disease for us, whether it's inflammation or oxidative damage or what have you. So we need to remove those things, and we need to bring in nourishment, and that's where the food conversation comes in. So it is really important to have both of those sort of practices in your life that do both of those things, but they can be, they don't have to be really daunting or difficult. So why don't you share with us, for both of those things, like what are some easy things that people can do, first of all, to remove and also educate us on what the toxins are that can, predispose us to cancer. And then again, with the food conversation, bringing in foods that can actually prevent cancer. So, what do you tell people?
Yeah, so when it comes to cancer, we know that evidence-based wise, lack of physical activity, right? Smoking, drinking, they're all related to the development of cancer, right? And I just want, when it comes to cancer, I want everyone to understand that genetically, we're about at 10%. The rest is lifestyle. The rest is what you're putting in your body. The rest is the epigenetic influence. That's 80, 90, 99%, right? So it depends on the person. When we think about nutritionally, we obviously want to the inflammatory foods. The standard American diet is processed, inflammatory, devoid of nutrition, devoid of nutrition-dense foods. What we see on the aisle of the outside of the supermarket, all of those foods that are alive, you bring them to your house. If you go on vacation, you forget, they're going to rot. Those are the foods that your body wants, energetically alive, vibrant foods. And that's from the first part. The things that we stress less is the stuff in our home, right? Because we don't feel it. We like to think that, that, oh, like I took this drink and now I have a stomach ache. It must be bad. But sometimes we don't feel these things. They build up over time. And there's very impactful interventions we can make in our home, starting with like cleaning supplies, for example, right? When I was young, I had asthma, but we were cleaning with like, what was it? It was something called Fabuloso, which was like bright blue, and you could just smell it off gassing. And me being super sensitive, I remember like my breathing would change every time it hit the floor and would aromatize into my nose. So things like that, cleaning supplies, ask yourself, am I using toxic cleaning supplies? Because a lot of us believe that the air outside is more toxic than the air in our home. But on average, the air outside is 10 times cleaner than the air in our home, but can go up to 100 times, especially if we're opening up those, like, for example, using bleach, which is not only can perpetuate asthma, but can cause it in children. So let's think about that, really. How are we cleaning our home? What else? Cookware. We're using things like Teflon, right? Teflon, we know they're notorious. If you've seen that movie, Dark Water, Dark Buffalo, they talk about PFAS. PFAS is the forever chemical that we're exposed to. Really, it's really harmful at the Teflon ingredient material. But that's nonstick for those who are doing Teflon for the first time. Those nonstick pans, they release this gas into the air, keep making you really sick, especially every time you're cooking. Not even including the combustion materials, but still, the home air. You have to think about the air in your home. Now we have things like carpets, furniture. Now, these are things that over time we can change. It's not just like, oh my God, is my whole home toxic? Beds, absolutely. You put your face on the surface of a bed for 8 hours and breathing in these hormone disrupting, immune disrupting, neurological disrupting chemicals. So, and this isn't just like, oh, what we're thinking about theoretically. What we know the chemicals in these materials can affect you over time, and they will.
Yeah.
Also, removing things like plastic, right? We drink so much plastic, and that and BPA and all its analogs affecting our body in many different ways. So removing plastic, cooking in plastic, it's just, this is what I tell people. Over a year, give yourself time to start changing things in your home. Let's say your makeup, your lotions, your shampoos, fragrances, over time. But over a year, you'll find that possibly your eczema is going away, the acne, the immune reaction, the rashes your children are having, the asthma your children are having. These are small over time, but impactful over the whole life. Changes to make.
It looks like people, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It looks like people are having a hard time hearing. I don't know if you can come back up to them closer to the microphone or headphones, or there's a lot of comments that there's an echo or
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, yeah, but I think there's a little bit of an echo. Maybe we'll try.
Yeah, do you want me to get headphones?
Yeah, if you can do that, that would be great.
Give me 1 second. Let me get headphones.
Yeah, no problem. And I'll kind of summarize, some of the things Dr. G was talking about, since it sounds like some people couldn't hear. Definitely he was saying, and there's a lot of science and evidence. Hopefully you can hear me, so let me know if you can hear me. Okay, looks good. So he was talking about a lot of the things that we don't think about in our homes, like our mattresses, our furniture, carpets, in addition to the cleaning agents that we use that are off-gassing and getting into the air in our homes. So if you heard him talking about the air quality in the homes, that's interesting, right? To think that it can be poorer quality of air in our home than even outside. And so I was just summarizing some of the things that you said.
Yeah, right on target. There you go.
Yeah. And, and I totally agree with you that, and cookware, and again, this is where it gets a little bit daunting for people. And so I do exactly what you said and recommend that people take time and a year or so to slowly replace the things that that could be potentially toxic, in their environment. And again, just exactly like you said, that it starts to fill up the jar. We have these low grade exposures that eventually we have symptoms, and we may not even know it, when we're not feeling the symptoms. But by the same token, when we start to take out little by little some of these toxic things from our home environment, that actually is additive. So I always tell people there's no change that's too small, right? And so that's exactly what I have done in my own life, when I started learning about, the importance of creating a non-toxic environment in your home. And, I would tell people, for example, every time I would I would run out of my cleaning agent and went to the store to get a new one, I would be more conscious of what I was choosing, or I would use a homemade cleaner. So, and then little by little by little, all of the cleaning products in my home were more natural and healthier and non-toxic. Yeah. Same thing with cookware. You may want to just throw it all out at once and replace everything, but there's nothing wrong with doing it little by little either. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the things with all of those things that you mentioned that people can start to do? Like, what do you recommend to people in all of those areas?
You can start with the cheaper stuff, right? Like the cleaning supplies, which are really impactful. Actually, you'll notice that kids are particularly affected by the off-gassing chemicals in these cleaning supplies, right? A lot of these, can everyone hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay.
So hopefully people can, we'll see what they say.
Okay, yeah, so there's a lot of these, so you have a choice. There's really good clean brands right now. I love the Environmental Working Group because you can cross-reference your cleaning supplies with them and see just where it lands on the letter grade. But they also give you good recommendations of higher quality ones. But you can also make home ones, right? You can use borax, you can use cleaning vinegar, you can use essential oils, right? You can use Castile soap. All of these things you can make a little concoction at home and make sure you're cleaning the right surfaces, because vinegar, for example, can affect marble, for example. But these are so much more impactful for your respiratory health, your immune health, your hormonal health, and your kids in particular, and pets.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one change. And then you can move into cosmetics, personal care products, right? Your shampoo, the lotion you use after, right? The face wash, all of these things have chemicals that keep them shelf stable, but really are affecting you. Now, one thing that people are always surprised by is when you see fragrance, right? Like, man, I remember when I was in college, I was using the Old Spice, and after that, I was coming out, I was putting Dove moisturizer, and I was using, Speed Stick. I smelled like a walking fragrance stick, right? But the word fragrance, actually, it's interesting. It's just an umbrella term for hundreds and hundreds of chemicals. So let's say you'll see 30 chemicals in the back of your shampoo. If you see fragrance in there, it actually could be 230, 330 chemicals. You just don't know because it's such a big umbrella term. So
Mm-hmm.
anything that has that really and we equate fresh to like that chemical smell, right? We wash clothes, we have our detergent that has that fresh synthetic smell, and we go, yes, it's fresh. Really, fresh should smell more natural, if not have any smell, right?
Right.
So let's keep that in mind, or something like an essential oil, something really nice, and that's really powerful. So let's do that, like our cleaning supplies, personal care products. Then we can start moving to the things like our furniture, our home. I talk a lot about that on my show, on how to shop for it, what labels to look for. Ready? Our beds or something. We can move to the couch, to the floor, to the rug. All these things that we can make massive, massive changes over time, and that's really powerful.
Yeah, so a couple of comments. The website he was talking about is Environmental Working Group. It's ewg.org.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a site I send a lot of people to. Like you said, they kind of grade things as far as their toxicity, and what are the safest sunscreens and cosmetics and cleaning
Right.
products to use. And it's a great source of information as people, again, are starting to transition to cleaner products. And I think also people don't realize how much I still see people that are putting on very chemically lotions and, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, things, and those air fresheners, whether it's in their car or their
Right.
homes. And, as I started studying those things and realized, like you said, many of them just disrupt our hormones. So they're hormone disruptors. They can actually cause, free radical damage and
Mm-hmm.
inflammation, which again relates back to, this matrix where cancer is more likely to develop. So, it's just getting rid of all of those things that, again, we don't realize are toxic to our health, and getting used to, I love how you said, like, it should smell natural, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, some of these natural smells. It's like we try to cover all of them up, but yeah, so slowly replacing with less toxic cleaning supplies and body products, ewg.org. And also a lot of your videos that you have on your Instagram, you share
Yeah.
a lot of these things as well. What do you tell people about cookware? I'm kind of curious.
So
That was a tough one for me.
cookware is interesting. I guess the research and where I land at this point is stainless steel can be really good, but it can be high in nickel, which is a heavy metal that can affect the brain, it can affect the immune system. But high quality stainless steel, there's cast iron, which is a fan favorite for many people. But also, if you have iron issues where you're not properly breaking down, metabolizing iron, or storing in your tissues, then that wouldn't be for you, because you'll be getting some iron from it. The other one is the ceramic, which is the one that I have.
Mm-hmm.
The downside of ceramic, well, the upside is really low in heavy metals, low in toxins. The downside is it's super delicate, can break easily, and also when you cook, there's a lot of food that sticks on it. So I'm trying to find the best one functionally, as well as what's going to affect our
Right.
system the least. So I would say stainless steel, cast iron, and ceramic at this point. And I did a whole review on, one of my first shows ever was on reviewing cookware, but I need to do an updated one.
Awesome, awesome. The other thing, that I didn't used to do, it just occurred to me that I've started doing more is I had read something about all of the kind of chemically things that are put in clothing. Of course, if you can buy local, organic, that's obviously best. But, that's not always possible, but to wash clothes before you put them on, because a lot of them have these chemicals to
Yeah.
resist molds when they're being transported from place to place, etc. And so I didn't always do that so religiously, but now I make sure I definitely do that before I put in any clothes or towels or, you know, all of those things.
Always wash your clothes when you purchase them. If you're getting them sent to you in a package, wash them. You can give them a smell, and they have a really weird, like warehousey, chemically smell. That's exactly for what you said, to avoid the mold, right? So when they're in the moisturous conditions, traveling in a truck, to avoid mold growth, and then they're losing their supply. But also, that brings the topic of dry cleaning. If you are regularly dry cleaning, I would I would I would try to reduce the clothes to be dry cleaned only which ones need to be, because dry cleaning has a very particular chemical in there. You can see it actually in urine test and immunological blood tests, and that very chemical can be affecting your overall health. So I just look. I don't want to nitpick at people's lives and their standard of living, right? But
Right.
I just want people to know that if you're dry cleaning your whole wardrobe, maybe you can reduce it to dry cleaning the jackets and the suit jackets and whatever you need to be dry clean, and really do the rest at home with a really good quality detergent.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, getting back to, you know, all of those little changes do matter, because
Yeah.
it's this buildup and this total body burden. Because another thing we talk about in Ayurveda is like, and we'll talk about now about food, supporting our own detoxification pathways, supporting our colon, and, you know, the
Mm-hmm.
ways that our body has to get rid of some of the toxins that inevitably get in. But it's when it accumulates too much and it's overwhelming, you know, overwhelming to our system. And so, you know, any changes you can make little by little. Again, people were mentioning plastic. You know, I slowly switched to all of my containers being glass. Yes, they're heavier and they can break, but definitely not storing things in plastic. And, you know, it's all those little things that additively make a huge difference. So, any of those little tips, and we'll summarize at the end
Mm-hmm.
for those of you that are watching, and this will be saved on IGTV, the feed on our Chopra IGTV, so people can go back and listen again. But definitely, again, that piece of removing things that could be creating inflammation, creating cancer, increased risk of cancer,
Yeah.
and then bringing in things that help to reduce our risk. So that's where healthy food comes in. So what
Yes.
would you say are like your top 5 things that you would tell people with food if they're really interested in reducing their risk of cancer or just general health,
Mm-hmm.
reducing inflammation?
For sure. And before I even get into that, the very point you make, Ayurveda, naturopathic, right? All of these ancient or TCM, ancient approaches to health, all talk about the same thing, and it's that removing and adding,
Yep.
removing and adding. And it's simply because your body doesn't care if it's a breast cancer diagnosis, it doesn't care if it's lymphoma, it doesn't care if it's heart disease. It only knows that it's not in balance. And it only
Right.
knows, I know how to get in balance, but there is something blocking me, and I don't have the precursors or the nutrition or the nutrients to help me get through that mountain, right? So
Exactly.
it's just that. If we work with the body, that's when we really create long-lasting health and long-lasting changes. So we talked about all of the stuff that really a lot of us don't talk about, and that's the stuff in our home, the stuff we're putting in our body, the stuff we're putting in our mouth. But the food, the nutrient-dense foods, that's so important. So some of my favorite, let's say top 5, some of my favorite, I've been on, I go through these waves where I talk about matcha so much. And I just did a show on matcha. So it's really fresh, but matcha is incredible. It's incredible because it's heart protective, brain protective, antioxidant rich. So it's negating those free radicals that you just mentioned that are causing that DNA damage that can lead to cancer down the road or other chronic diseases. So matcha is an incredible morning therapeutic drink. That's what I say. Like when I do a little matcha ceremony and I thank it because I know what it's doing in my body. Now, alcohol is connected to 7 different cancers. A lot of people in America drink alcohol. A lot of people around the world drink alcohol. So I just did a video talking about matcha or green tea before and after you drink alcohol. it will theoretically be much more protective than the oxidation that you're getting, especially in your mouth, in your esophagus, in your stomach, in your intestines. So matcha, 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 one of my favorite ones. Now, when it comes to the research into cancer, what we already know, the stuff that you would think. Leafy greens, dark leafy greens. The beautiful thing about vegetables and fruits is that the spectrum of colors, right? The rainbow, red, orange, blue, violet, green, they all have different nutrient compounds. They have different polyphenols, different antioxidants. So what you're getting in a, say, eggplant is going to be very different what you're getting in a tomato, going to be what you're getting in a grape, what you're getting in spinach. But regardless, when I talk about top five, I talk about 5 fruits and vegetables that you're getting at the end of the day. So ask yourself, when you're in bed, go, okay, I ate this in the morning, I ate this, I ate this. Did it check off all of the colors of the rainbow, right? So then you know that you've gotten, at the very least, 5 really good quality antioxidants that are protecting you. What else? When it comes to cancer, the majority of the research shows that either a plant-based and or a Mediterranean type diet is best at cancer prevention and also for those who have cancer. But essentially that's what it is. It's vegetable rich, it's fruit rich, it's color rich. So very important, but also whole grains, beans, legumes. Really, really important. Those have been also shown to help reduce cancer risk. So, and it's because they have in itself, a lot of these people talk about anti-nutrients, and that's very much so a valid thing to be worried about, especially with digestive issues. But what we don't know is a lot of the time when we cook these things like beans and legumes, like, for example, lectins. Lectins have also been shown to be anti-cancer, right? So the very things that we fear in beans and legumes are the very things that are going to be helpful. Fiber. Well, the beautiful thing is it's tied to all the things I just talked about: vegetables, fruits, beans, whole grains. But fiber is going to be really important, not only in preventing colon cancer, but at feeding your microbiome. Those are the precursors where your microbiome, once it comes in and they make contact with those breakdown molecules, they dance and they celebrate and they go, yes, thank you for feeding us. Here are some good molecules that are healthy for you and your body. Let's cause anti-inflammatory processes in the body, right? Let's stabilize your gut. Let's reform the gut lining. All of these things are going to be really important, but that's the beautiful part of healing and food, right? We have access to it. Matcha, all the colors of the rainbow, vegetables and fruits, fiber, beans, legumes. That's right in our fingertip. You can go to the supermarket right now. Go home, go and get it, and bring it home and start making them. Those are really the whatever else you eat, as long as this is the majority of your diet, you're in a good place.
Yeah, I love how you talked about earlier, going around kind of if you leave the house and there's stuff that's going to rot, like that's because that's natural food, right? It's not stuck with, all kinds of preservatives and everything. So the more natural, whole foods you can eat, the better. And all of these things, like science is, just confirming over and over that and again, it can be the majority of your diet. It doesn't have to be 100%, but, and I love your tip on the matcha or the green tea. I get asked about alcohol quite a bit, drinking it before and after, to at least help to reduce, again, the damage that could be occurring. And, I like to give people these little hacks as well. If you're going to eat like the typical American sandwich, which is like meat, cheese, bread, find something green and put it in there, or put one vegetable in there, because that food combining, it's going to help, at least to some degree, mitigate the potential, inflammatory response that your body might have to some of those foods. So, again, it's not about being perfect, but it's about how can I incorporate more and more of these healthy foods in my diet in everything that I eat. And another big one in Ayurveda especially is spices. I don't think a lot of people realize how many anti-inflammatories and anti-cancer molecules and antioxidant activity there is just in these tiny little spices that you can add to your food.
I miss those.
That's another.
So spices is the last one. Spices are so important. Rosemary, cayenne, turmeric, ancient Ayurvedic, right? Ginger, garlic, all of these things. antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, right? They help feed the heart, they help feed the brain, they help feed the gut. So important. And
Absolutely.
like you just dress your food, right? Just dress your food. Just add it in there, mix it up, and start using them, because we only use we use salt, we use pepper, maybe we use maybe we use a little cumin, and we call it a day. But really start expanding your spice cabinet and call it, instead of a spice cabinet, call it the medicine cabinet, right?
Exactly.
And that's what you're using, because those are medicines. Turmeric is so powerful. It has over, I think, last time I checked, over 50 different mechanisms for reducing cancer or fighting cancer. Crazy. Turmeric in itself, but
Exactly.
and that's just turmeric. Imagine ginger, imagine garlic, right? So rosemary, my favorite one. So there you go. I get really excited about spices, as you can see.
So I know the other thing that you get excited about talking, and I kind of think about it in a sort of a context of trauma. We were going to touch on like trauma in the nervous system, but when we have inflammation and we're bringing in kind of a lot of toxins in our body, you can think of that again as like a trauma to the system. Exactly like you said, the body doesn't know it's either in balance or out of balance. I love that, because again, every choice is either moving you away from balance or toward balance. And things that bring you away from balance are like a trauma to the system. And so then the nervous system will react to that, whether it's emotional, physical, and we need to shift that nervous system into more of the healing response, in order for all of those amazing changes we're making in our lives to actually have the most benefit. So, maybe you can talk a little bit about that, because I know that's another thing you're really passionate about is, the nervous system and how to modulate that. And
exactly. So when we think about removing, right, we talked about the cleaning supplies, cookware, personal care products. That's easy, right? We can grab them and remove them. More of the work is removing the very things that are taking our nervous system, our immune system, a powerful hold on it, putting them in jail, right? And that's when we're holding in all of this trauma that happens through life. Now, when I talk about trauma to people, sometimes they'll think, well, I had a good childhood. I had a great mom, a great dad. But a lot of these things don't have to be where we experience death or molestation, right, or domestic abuse. It doesn't have to be to that level. It can be something that happened when you were really vulnerable and open-hearted in 5th grade, and someone made fun of you in front of everyone. And then all of a sudden, you found that every time you use your voice or do an impression of Charlie Chaplin, for example, you get made fun of, and you can never be that anymore. And that's how we go through life. We have these adaptations to really, in our minds, make us survive or be part of the tribe, right? That's the very thing. We want to belong. We want to, it's in our DNA to be tribal, in community with people, and be loved, give love, and feel loved. And unfortunately, through life and our society and parents and teachers, our ego, fortunately, protects us, but unfortunately, it protects us for so long. Our ego creates these adaptations that protect us from being our true, authentic selves. And then we forget over the years that it's just an adaptation. It's not part of our personality. So say, for example, I'll tell my own personal side of it. For me, growing up, it wasn't good to cry, right? Especially growing up in a Latin home. And I know it's not just a Latin home. I know it's just a lot of cultures around the world. There's a very masculine, sort of toxic masculinity. And crying, it wasn't encouraged in my home to let out the emotion. And that, in many ways, is a powerful way of blocking my own healing, right? Because if my body wants to release and move energy or emotion, wants to move it out, it's going to move it through crying. Well, for so much of my life, I didn't let that happen because I thought that, I don't cry, that's not, I've never been a crier. I grew up not crying. The fact of the matter is I made an adaptation, maybe at 7, maybe at 8, maybe at 9, where I said it's not safe to cry. And what happens in the nervous system is you tell your nervous system it's not safe to be authentic. And that is one of the biggest blocks to any healing we can do. It doesn't matter if it's cancer, if it's arthritis, if it's anything down the road, we have to really start addressing the very things that are holding us from being our authentic selves. Because for me, health is much more than changing your cookware. Health is much more than getting even a new mattress. True health is expressing your soul, right? Your soul, your authentic self. You're able as an adult to express and say what you want and honor your truth, give love, receive love, be in that flow. That's authenticity. Without that authenticity, you're blocking your body from healing because your nervous system is holding on so much and using that resource to hold it in the body. And your immune system is working on that resources to protect, right? And then all of a sudden, we drink a tea and it has turmeric in it. We go, oh, my body doesn't react well to turmeric. That's because you're hypervigilant. Your nervous system is vigilant. Your nervous system thinks the world isn't safe. So the powerful thing we can do is practice that, tap into that. Breath work, meditation will bring awareness to it. So we even know that there's something there. Journaling can bring awareness to it. This is why rituals are so important. Having that time for yourself to all of a sudden go, holy moly, I'm holding in a lot of stuff. I'm not being authentically me. I'm scared to speak up at work, with my partner, with friends. I'm scared to perform, right? I remember, like when I was young, I used to sing and dance, and someone told me my voice is terrible, and then I stopped singing. And singing was my favorite thing in the world. Those very things, that's the truth of the matter, is that authenticity is being blocked, unfortunately, by the ego, but fortunately it's protecting us. But still, we have the power to remember that it's not us. And those are the things: meditation, breath work, journaling. You can think about animals in nature. They breathe when they're under that stress. They go, and they let it out of their body. What I do every morning is I get up and I shake. I shake really hard, and I awake the nervous system, and I let that move through my body. And if it comes up and I yell or burp or cry, I let it come up. I allow it. And those are some of the things that I do. But that's really so powerful, so powerful. The body trauma.
Absolutely. Wow, you said all of that so beautifully, and I think it's really resonating with so many people as I'm reading the comments.
Great.
And it really is about this mind-body connection, and so it's beautiful, that you appreciate that connection and talk about on various videos and etc. Some as do we. Some things like we concentrate on the mind because that's very important, and other things we talk really in depth about things for the body, because you really have to address both of those things, and they influence each other. And and authenticity, I think, is so important, and it's a difficult thing. It's a journey, right, to get to that point. And we do, meditation is one of my favorite practices, and breath work, journaling, all of the things you mentioned. So I think
and I will say one thing, sorry.
Yeah.
We find the ego finds such a really good way of distracting ourselves, right? We have the best tool to distract ourselves right here in front of us, right? We use our phones so much, we use social media so much. I'm guilty of it, of distracting myself with it. But just bring awareness if you are distracting yourself. Let's say when you turn off your phone and you put it down, and then you're looking around for someone to talk to, right? So then you go out and you meet up with friends. Great, community is amazing. But if you cannot be by yourself without a phone, without talking to someone, and you feel a lot of discomfort coming up, that means the body is trying to show you a lot of where you need to heal. And if you let it, it'll show you a lot. And it'll bother you, it'll feel uncomfortable, you'll feel like you're in solitary confinement because you can't talk to anyone. But if you let it come out, you'll soon see that the body knows how to heal. If you surrender the ego and let the breathing happen, let the body start shaking, let the body start sweating, let the body start crying, whatever it is, that's so powerful. So see if you're distracting yourself. And if you are, maybe make an effort to start reducing those mechanisms and take alone time. Be by yourself. If you can't be your own best friend, then you're living in a body that you're having a human experience and you're not even comfortable in it.
Exactly. And there's always this sense of escaping from the here, the here and the now and the me. And so that's stress and inflammation and all of those things. And that's beautiful. I'm about to, in a couple of weeks, go on a silent retreat myself and spend some silent time with myself and others there too. But it's such a beautiful practice. And again, it gets back to what we talked about even with the cancer conversation and toxins, it's like there is a lot of toxic beliefs we have about ourselves, about others. We have to learn to let those go. And again, as you mentioned, the first thing is being aware of them, and then having some sort of process of letting them go, and then replacing them with nourishing thoughts, nourishing beliefs, nourishing perspectives on life. And that may mean changing everything about how you think about the world and yourself and others. But that's where all the healing happens. So, thank you for sharing that, with everyone, and how important that is. So I feel like, we definitely will have to have another conversation at some point. But I wanted to summarize all of the amazing information that you've given us during this live, so people can at least start with some of these healthy habits in their lives, and fill in later if I missed anything, and also share with everyone how they can follow you and your work. And I would tell everyone, check out our Chopra meditation and wellbeing app to get started on meditation if it's not a regular practice for you. We have some breathing practices on there as well. And on Chopra.com, lots of ideas as far as journaling and emotional release and a lot of the things we've talked about today. So getting rid of toxins in your home environment, whether it's physical or emotional. So little by little, start replacing the chemically toxic cleaning agents and cosmetics from your home. Slowly get rid of them and replace them with natural, non-toxic products. And use that website ewg.org. It's really great as a guide, and Dr. G's information as well on his platforms. And then cookware, he mentioned getting away from the Teflon and that, those chemically nonstick coatings, stainless steel, cast iron, ceramic, all of those more natural kind of, cookware items, removing the plastic containers and replacing them with, glass and, other types of storage. There's lots of things out there now. Thank goodness there's so many conscious businesses out there dedicating their time to these, more natural ways of living. And then bringing in lots of healthy food, the rainbow of colors. Get a variety, even if you feel like I already eat a lot of vegetables, but it's the same one over and over. It's really important to get that variety of nutrient dense, brightly, colored natural foods. And then ones that are rich in antioxidants like matcha, green tea, spices, and then that healthy fiber with whole grains and beans, fruits and vegetables. And then of course in the mind layer, letting go of toxic beliefs and bringing in new perspectives, nourishing ways of thinking about life. So, and bringing in nourishment through conversations like this and like-minded people. So last words from you and how people can continue to connect with you.
Man, Dr. Patel, I'll say you have a great memory. You went through that you went through that right on point. Perfect. I will add just sun. Make sure you're trying to see the sunrise as much as possible, seeing the sunset. Those frequencies of light, those wavelengths are going to be very important for your health. Putting your feet on the ground, really and having ritual time, whether to meditate on the app that you guys have, which is an amazing app, doing the breath work, journaling. Just can you slice time in your day to have you time? No phone, no distractions, no partners, no kids. Even if it's in the shower, if you have kids and you have 15 minutes by yourself, that's going to be really powerful. Okay. So for me, I have the Heal Thyself podcast, and that is out every single week. You can find that on YouTube. You can find that on every platform on Apple. My Instagram is dr.christian.gonzalez. Also, I am a co-founder of the Swell Score, which is a platform where you can get high quality everything. It's basically curated by doctors, scientists, and nutritionists to have the best supplements, but also air purifiers for your home, water filters. We don't have a big selection of each because it's curated to the best of the best. Mm-hmm. So you can always check that out too. And what a pleasure to be here.
What's the website for that? I missed that one.
It's theswellscore.com. It's in my bio. You can just click it and see the page and explore it. It's the Swell Score. Anyway, what a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on this, and I can reach out to audiences. It's amazing. Thank you all for listening. And you mentioned that you're going to save it, so anyone who wants to revisit it, it'll be here. But what a pleasure, and thank you everyone for being here.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and your light and your passion for all of these things. It definitely shows. And keep sharing and educating. And thank you so much for the work that you do. And we'll have another conversation, I'm sure, at some point. And thanks to everyone out there for joining us, and stay connected. Next time, you can even share some of the tips and ways that you've made changes in your lives, because I love to hear about that as well. So thank
Amazing
you to
stuff.
everyone. Thank you, Dr. G.
Bye. Thank you.
Namaste.
Take
All
care,
right.
everyone.
Bye-bye.